Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast with your host, Tracy Hayes. This great agent before me has over 12 years of experience. She hails from the Bayou with a degree in tourism and hospitality, two great strengths to have when being an agent in Florida. She's an entrepreneur and a leader as she enjoys being involved in the leadership in the real estate brokerages she's worked with. Let's welcome this leader, mom, to the show, the Hauser of Hauser Homes, Amanda Hauser.
Thanks
Welcome
for
to the show.
having
Thank
me.
you for coming on. A lot of changes recently for you, and you're continuing your broker support with your brokers. But as we know, you've changed logos really.
Yeah.
Are you still staying on the office on 210? Are you still working out of that office?
I am.
Primarily?
So my team, it's myself and a licensed assistant. So we are still in our same office on 210. And as far as the logo change, which has been the big buzz over the last few weeks,
Right.
As we made some transitions, it really, that's about it, is that we changed our logo and our name. We have the same incredible owners, same leadership team, and we basically, they were able to go independent and become a part of the United Group as independent owners away from the franchise. And really, they were able to give better compensation plans to their agents. They are able to provide more technologically advanced platforms, such as websites and CRMs and lead generation, and more marketing tailored to our current environment as we're in a changing real estate market.
You know, to touch a little bit on it, because obviously one of the things I always talk almost on every show, because I want agents to understand, especially newer agents that might be listening to the show, or some agents that might be experienced and not realize there may be something. If you're stuck and you're not moving forward, your brokerage is not growing you, or you're not, you need to be looking to grow. Hopefully all agents are looking to grow. It's just sometimes the people around you aren't looking to grow.
Right.
And understanding the real estate industry and how it's changing constantly. Technology is a big part of it, and if you're at a brokerage who is kind of just set in their ways, so to speak, and not growing, not looking to do things bigger and better, you're going to get beat out over, I wouldn't say a long haul, but definitely a short road. You know, tomorrow may be okay, but 3 months, 3 years, or if you're not growing, all of a sudden you're so far behind.
Yes. When it comes to new agents, and I love mentoring and being a part of the broker support team at United Real Estate Gallery, is I tell them all the time with their first license, you're going to have so much noise coming at you.
Yes.
You need to invest in this. You need to buy this website and this CRM, and you need to buy leads from here, and you need to do this, and you need to do that. When you're a brand new agent, that's really expensive. You know,
Yes.
Especially if you're coming from where you were on a salary job and benefits, and now, you're it, right? And don't even get me started on health insurance for self-employed. However, and I tell them, you have to take the noise out of it, and you need to interview with multiple brokerages and ask them, what are they providing for you? Because at the end of the day, you are their customer.
So, all right, so we're on this subject, and I this is one of my favorite subjects when talking to every one of the top agents that we have on and influences in our industry, and how you're interviewing that broker, and the brokers will tell you, they're not going to label all these things out here. We're going to give because you actually have to show up.
Right.
So you have to show that you're interested, and they'll provide if you're willing you're willing to ask questions, you're willing to learn, you're willing to be coached. But how important is it that as a new agent, or if you're an agent who's stuck with a brokerage that just you're not moving forward, you don't think is helping you expand your business, that you are interviewing those brokers that align with you, because every one of them does their business a little differently.
They do, and that's why you have options, right? Because I may fit with one brokerage, and a new recruit I interview may be a better fit for a different one. So it's why you have options. And so when I interview new agents looking at our brokerage, or existing agents looking to make a change, maybe they're stagnant where they're at,
right,
I encourage them to ask certain questions when they're interviewing based on what their goals are, because everyone's goals are different too. And your goals are going to change as your seasons of life change as well. And that's something that our owners have always been so great about. We really are like a big family. You know, they're like, you know, Amanda, sometimes you're going to go through a season of life where you're going to be running to karate and gymnastics and not get home at 8 o'clock every night. And you're not going to be available from 3 to 7,
Right.
3 nights a week. And it's just a part of life. And so you kind of have to adapt your business around it, whether you hire an assistant or you have support or you join a team. And there's all those options. But you have to know, I think, going into it, what are your goals? And then what different opportunities are there out there? What brokerage is going to help you hit those goals?
What are you guys doing as far as, you know, I think the big thing is finding what that agent's strength is. What's their mojo? What is it that they do really good, especially from the prospecting end? Because it's all about prospecting.
Yes.
You can teach the other part, but prospecting, you know, whether it's called reluctancy or, you know, there's people love knocking on doors. There's people like don't even think about even,
Yes.
you know, walking down the sidewalk. So what are you doing to really try to find what that agent's mojo is? What is their sweet spot so that they can 10x it when it comes to prospecting?
Absolutely. So a lot, again, of being part of broker support team, we do specialized trainings every month for our agents. And one of the things that I love is when I do a prospecting class. So here's your overview of a bunch of different options, right? And at the end of the day, what you enjoy is what is going to give you benefits, because if you don't enjoy doing it, you're not going to do it, or you're not going to do it to its full potential.
Right.
So you have people that have a great sphere and they get stuck. The market's changing, right? So even if you have a great sphere, you might need more business because it's starting to change. And they're like, well, I want to invest in this, and so is doing really good at that. Have you ever done that before? Why don't I partner you with so-and-so? Sit down with them for a day and see if it's for you. And if they're like, I don't really like that, don't invest in it.
Right.
Let's look at your sphere together. Let's talk about things that you're not considering that maybe you could do to expand your market reach to your sphere. Or if you're a door knocker and you don't have listings, we have agents every day that are like, we have an open house this weekend. Please do it for me. Go do that agent's open house. Brand it to you. They're giving you permission to do that. Go knock on doors if that's your thing. But at the end of the day, if it's not something they love to do, they're not going to do it.
100%. And it's the missing link to me in talking to, you know, 90 plus top real estate agents, listening to our industry, you know, whether it's on the loan officer side or on the real estate side, is finding, not trying to improve on your weaknesses, not, you know, hey, I need to get better because I'm not really good at that. It's not that. You need to find out what makes your heart sing. I'm going to steal that from Katie Kampmeyer. What makes your heart sing, because that's what's going to get you up every day.
Yep.
You know, if you love cold calling people, I mean, you're going to be drooling at the bit. Hey, you know, is it too early in the morning? Can I start now? And whether it's cold calling, knocking on doors, or you're buying leads, or the whatever it is, because there's many different ways to prospect. You gotta love it, and if you're really good at that, you can learn the rest.
Yes, exactly.
100%. So
Also
love
have
to get that section
also
out.
Also have to be willing to learn the rest.
100,
and that's
right.
the other key.
And I think one of the benefits, actually, I was the thought was when you were finishing your statement there a minute ago, with, you know, Exit Real Estate Gallery becoming United Real Estate Gallery, as large of a brokerage that you guys are, there's a lot of top agents who don't like, you know, they get the listing, but they don't like sitting in their open houses. And so as a new agent, you know, one of the benefits of obviously joining a brokerage like that is obviously there's going to be a lot of open houses to call on and say, hey, do you want to sit? Yeah, I'll sit it this weekend, so you can, you know, get some FaceTime experience, you know, sitting in an open house to, you know, as you ramp your business up.
You know who goes to open houses? The neighbors.
The neighbors, yes.
Right?
Yes.
They want to walk in.
If you're good at it, you'll lure them
and they
in.
want to go, what is this selling for? Well, I have better backsplash than they do, and I think my house is worth more. And then you start the conversation. Like, well, are you thinking about making a move?
I think if I was an agent, actually, you say that.
I mean, that's people walking into you. You don't even have to go knock on the door. They're going to just walk in.
How do you attract the neighbors to come in? And I'll let you answer that question. I would, I would put a barbecue grill in the driveway and start cooking some really good smelling hamburgers. That'll get them to come by. But obviously some of the basics, as I'm sure a lot of agents are not going and knocking 20, 30 doors either way or across the street or whatever and just saying, hey, here in the loan officer world, they're telling the new loan officers, go and sit in open house, but get the real estate agent's card, your card, and go and knock on the door and just say, hey, we're having an open house down here. Just want to let you know if anybody parks in front of your house and you need us to take care of it, here's my card. And they're going to take that number. Obviously, you're not trying to sell them anything, but you're letting them know there's an open house down the street and we sell in this neighborhood. Here's my card.
And we teach a class on open houses as well. Linda White does a great one. And one of the things I always preach is, if you're rolling up to the open house 2 minutes before it starts and you're just throwing a sign in the yard, you're wasting your time and the owners. Don't even go. Don't open the door unless you're going to tell people that the door is open, right? They have to know it's open to know to walk in. You need signage everywhere. You need to be doing a social media marketing campaign online, whether it is Facebook or Google Ads, whatever your platform is, and you need to be targeting that community or a radius around it several days before your open house saying, hey, and then over the next few days, I'm going to be here from 12 to 3 on Saturday. Come get muffins and mimosas or whatever your plug is to get them in, cooking burgers in the driveway. But don't open the door and sit there if you're not going to tell them the door's open. They're not going to just happen to drive down the cul-de-sac street and see the one sign and walk in the door.
Well, everyone's got something to do on the they're running. And when are they going to see that you're doing the open house? When they go to run their kid to a ball game, I got to go to the ball game. I don't have time. I'm not going to get back in time by the time, your window of opening is going to be there.
They're cutting the grass.
Yeah. Or they see it on their way back in and it's already 15 minutes before you're going to close the door and they got to unload the groceries. Right. And so you're 100% right. Get out up front, show up 30, 45 minutes early, get everything lined up. So as if someone, as soon as you know it's 11 o'clock, that someone's going to walk in that door and do it. I want to, you mentioned something there about the Facebook targeting ads, because you can actually target to that neighborhood.
You can.
Is that something you guys teach over there or something that's
it is
kind of required, I wouldn't say required.
There's a really platform that our brokerage has a relationship with for our agents. And with a new listing, you automatically get a neighborhood targeting ad for all of your new listings. The agent doesn't have to do anything. It pulls from MLS. It does it for them. Mm-hmm. And again, the whole point is to try to generate more listing business and start establishing yourself as the professional in that community.
So you're using Facebook to leverage that?
Yes, it's through the AdWorks platform. And so that's a Facebook ad. And again, that's included like a provided amenity that our brokerage provides. Mm-hmm. You also have the option to run additional ads if you choose at a discounted rate. And so I highly encourage agents, it's a minimal cost. If you're doing an open house, run a 3 or 4 day campaign to that neighborhood target beforehand. Let them know you're coming.
I'm just rolling with the punches here. Work with me because I normally start off with where you're from, but since we're on this important and stuff, we'll get around to that part here in a second. How often you get the new agent or even an agent that just went to a brokerage that's just like, yeah, hang your sign, whatever. If you don't show up, we're not calling you. That's the type of thing. But that they have to understand the reason why because you can make good money in real estate, and 3%, or really you're getting 6%. You're paying the buyer's agent 3%.
Life-changing money.
Yeah,
that's what I usually tell them. You can make life-changing money.
But you've got to spend a little bit on one yourself, and we'll talk about personal development, going to events and that sort of thing. But in this case, marketing. As big as now United Real Estate Gallery is, and the resources that you guys have access to, what are some of the things that you're coaching and how much an agent should should be spending, how much a new agent needs to invest in themselves, in this case, marketing, since we're on that subject, marketing in themselves. Do you guys actually break it down by a percentage, or how do you have that conversation?
I don't on a general level, just because everyone's business looks very different. However, our leadership team, our owners and the broker support managers, we do offer group and individual business planning sessions coming up this fall to start planning for next year, where we will give them time. We have open office hours. They can come in. We can look at their plan with them. Now, I do teach a class that we did last month on running your business as a business, because a lot of agents don't realize you are your business. Okay, so do you know what a P&L report is? Have you looked at it? Do you understand you can't run in the red, right? And then if you start tracking these things year over year, what were your sales? How much did you spend? Do we need to cut expenses? Do we need to add sales? What are your goals and how are we going to get there? So I do a class on running your business as a business, which is a little more general. You know, is it time to LLC or do an S Corp? Right. Do you have an accountant? I mean, some of the very basics. And then we do sit down and we'll do individualized plans.
Because, I mean, how many times have you seen, you know, you've been doing this a dozen years, that agent get to that point and they're not really running it like a business, having some sort of budget. They're a lot of agents come and it's not like they have a ton of money in their accounts. I've had many agents on here who have basically told me when they started, they were basically living paycheck to paycheck and they dove into it, and then got family, helped them out here, paid for their cell phone, whatever. Mm-hmm. So it's not exactly they're coming with tens of thousands of dollars running an advertising campaign for themselves.
Right.
How do you, I mean, so my question was, how many times have you seen agents over the years who are not taking time to go to that class? Right. It's voluntary. You're not forcing them to go.
Correct.
They've got to go and learn, understand, and all of a sudden they start tax time and they realize, oh my God, I didn't track this, or I didn't budget this. I spent too much money and now I get my check and there's nothing left.
Yes. Yeah. So business in general, as you know, money and time, right? And in this business, time is money. So as much as you put into it, you should be getting out of it, okay? But you also have to audit yourself, and you need to track your ROIs and make sure. The thing I'm seeing even more recently is the last 2.5 years, we've all been running. We barely knew our names. The business was great, and we just could barely catch our breath. So a lot of agents were spending very heavily because they had so much coming in. Well, now breaks, right? Interest rates are pushing 7. Things have slowed
actually higher
down.
Than that, but
Whew, you're killing me.
Someone posted something that the projection is 8.5%. But anyway,
but I'm seeing now where they didn't pump the brakes on their spending, and their production has slowed significantly from this time last year. And now they're finding themselves in situations, or they didn't put money away from tax. They decided they were going to spend a lot because they were making a lot, and they didn't prepare for tax season. And so that is what I'm seeing lately is, you have to be present enough and give yourself the education, if you don't have it, to know when to scale your business.
Well, the importance of, John Brooks talks a lot about this, and Brittany.
I listen to him a lot.
Yeah. And I love his angle, and obviously he's bringing value to his agents and teaching them, it's not about the gross amount of your checks. It's the net amount. How much are you spending strategically? Because like you said, you think it's rolling in, so you're out there spending money on probably stuff you don't have to, that's not actually giving you a return on investment. And plus, like you said, things are going by so fast. I mean, did anyone actually have time to actually see your ad? Because it was gone the next day.
Right. And a lot of agents will subscribe to these things where it just comes out automatically monthly, and they're not ever stopping to see, I've been spending $250 a month on these internet leads, and I haven't converted one, right? So they look at their bank statement, they're like, I've been paying for this for 17 months. That adds up really fast.
Right.
And, I I have myself on a salary. It's funny. I laughed the other day. I was like, I haven't given myself a raise in 3 years. Like inflation, like I want to start looking at that.
Right.
But again, like John says, it's about the net. It's about, you set yourself up to look at the net amount, or you put yourself on a fixed salary, then the rest is in your business and you need to manage that business.
Yes. All right, so that was a good chunk of the middle of my normal routine. We're gonna go back to the beginning and learn a little bit about Amanda. You were born and raised in New Orleans?
I was on a little island right outside of New Orleans.
Interesting. What was that like?
It was wonderful.
Small little school, or
so I went to a small private school off the island.
Okay.
We did not have a gas station or a grocery store. There was one bar room where my parents could get like milk and bread and put it on their monthly tab.
Okay.
So I am 36. I'm not 66. However, it was like living back in time. It was very, I guess, odd upbringing for someone my age. But a lot of our family lived on the island. My dad was a commercial fisherman and a fireman, and it was a very simple life, and it was a very wonderful life. And I recently moved my kids out to the country and back to some brackish water because it's in my bones. I kind of want them to have a little of that experience.
So were your parents like both born and raised there? How did they actually?
So my parents met at like 9.
Yeah.
My dad's dad parked his boat outside of my mom's dad's house. And they got married, I don't know, 17, 18 years old, something crazy.
Wow.
They've been together 46 years, I believe.
Wow, that's interesting.
And they're building a block away from us back in the country on some brackish water because that's how we roll in Louisiana. So we all stay close together.
So they're coming over here?
They are building a block from us. Yeah,
oh, interesting. Okay, cool. You go to, was it University of New Orleans?
Yes, I graduated from University of New Orleans.
University of New Orleans. And with hospitality and tourism, basically, was your degree. I mean, what was your vision and what you wanted to do at that time as a career?
So I started with Marriott my sophomore year of college. My sophomore year, Hurricane Katrina came through and devastated New Orleans, which all my family is there, so it affected every single one of us. Mm-hmm. I was actually in college at the University of Louisiana Lafayette at the time, and I couldn't be away from my family. I wanted to come back, and the college wasn't even open yet. So I found a job with Marriott in New Orleans at the JW Marriott because they were desperate for people to work. And so I got this great job and started working in the sales office and had some incredible mentors. And I always say Marriott kind of raised me. I was so young, and I was kind of in this corporate sales environment, and I had, again, exceptional mentors. They helped pay for my college. Marriott International did. And I loved being in the sales realm. And I ended up crossing over to the catering sales realm and became a certified wedding planner. And I worked in several luxury high-end hotels around New Orleans for years. And then when I got married years ago, we decided to move here and open a business, not real estate related, because I wanted children, and I knew I couldn't keep up with the amount of hours in the weekends that my job demanded. I wanted to be able to be a present
Staying
mom.
in the hospitality and working in a hotel.
I would sleep at the hotel more nights than I was home. And I was like, I don't want to be that mom.
Right.
I want to have some kind of balance, which I think as a working mom in general, you're constantly trying to find balance.
Right.
So we moved here, and I opened a franchise, and not real estate related. It lasted about 1.5 years. I had my son, and I was like, I hate having employees. Like, I loved having my own business, but I hated having employees. And so I sold the business and was like, I'm going to stay home for a while. Well, that lasted like 2 months because I loved to work. And so I had originally licensed in Louisiana. I didn't do much. I did some personal transactions. Mm-hmm.
So you had a little taste of it before you came here.
Had a little taste of it.
Your thoughts of real estate is in your mind.
Yes, and that was 2010. So the market in New Orleans then was awful. It was like trying to get into real estate here in 2009. So I ended up relicensing here with a Florida license in 2014. So my son was just over 1. And then I was pregnant with my daughter. So I was like, oh, great, another new venture. And now I'm going to have 2 under 2. So I actually just worked part-time in real estate and just started building my sphere in my business until they were both in school full-time, which was 2018. So I've really only been full-time since 2018. And that's kind of been my journey. I've been with Now United almost 5 years. And I really switched over to them when I was ready to go full time and build a team.
So what was the actual, the attraction? What brought you to Florida?
We came to Florida originally because the franchise opportunity we had, this was the location.
Oh, okay.
And at the time, it was 8 hours from my in-laws and 8 hours from my parents. It was like halfway between both. It was the lesser of two
8 hours
options
is actually
we
a
had.
long time.
Yeah, especially from someone that grew up on an island that was 7 miles long.
Yeah. So you get here. What leads you to your first brokerage? I mean, what who you want to hang your sign with? Because you were working part time. What was going through your mind to make that choice of who?
So I interviewed with several. I interviewed with some of the national brokerages, and then I found a small family brokerage. I actually started with Davidson Realty in World Golf Village. And again, coming from that really strong family background, they had a lot of training, and they were willing to let me be part-time as I, wanted to kind of slowly build my business. And I just loved the family dynamic that was there.
What are some of the challenges, though, being part-time that at any time? Obviously, we know time is always a challenge, but just being an agent, if you're to realize you've walked in some of the shoes of the new agents that you talk to or you're mentoring and that sort of thing. What are some of those initial challenges that you had in getting your business started?
Yeah, and so one of them was once I got a taste of it, I loved it, and I wanted to work more. And at that point, I had 2 very small children. And so again, as an agent, your goals change as your life changes. And I was ready to go a little more full-time, but has anyone seen the cost of daycare? Right. So I remember at one point, they were both in part-time daycare, which was 3 days a week. So I would make all my appointments on those 3 days, and I would spend time in the office, and I would sit with experienced agents, and I would work floor duty, and I would just listen and learn as much as I could, attend trainings on the 3 days a week the kids were in daycare. And even that was a leap, because I think back then it was like $1,600 a month, and I still had to stay home 2 days a week. So that was a big leap of faith, of one of those, sometimes you got to put a little out to get it back.
Right.
And it ended up evolving to the point where I was having to pull other agents into deals and say, hey, will you partner with me on this, because I'm not available on Tuesdays and Thursdays because I have my children at home. And so that's when I got the idea, like, I think I'm ready to build a team. And that way I can still be present until they start school full time, but still be able to service my business as me.
Well, the really key points that I just got out of that short story there, you blocked your time. You utilized your time to the fullest.
Yes.
You didn't just sit at home, play on the computer, and wait until your kids got done and waited for someone to call you to sell their house. You actually, because education's one of those themes that I had. You actually, in your education, was going in and being next to those experienced agents, showing up to the office and being present, because you had to hear the other transactions going on. One, to stay motivated, but to understand actually why real estate is a human business. And I'm gonna, people will argue with me, this will never be done electronically because there's too many emotions are in there. Emotions is one of the words, but really our business properties are unique. There's no cookie cutter title work. There's no, right. You can't just plug these things into a computer because they're all so unique. You need the human interaction. So you have to hear and you'll agree, every transaction is different because you got different people. You got a different house, you got different title work, you got different financials coming in, and you're getting them approved from every loan. And if your loan goes through like a hot knife through butter, praise the Lord, because very rarely there's always something. Now that's our job as from the lending side to the realtor side, is to overcome those little issues and stamp them out and go. But otherwise, a computer could not do that.
So that's a question I get a lot from our newer agents, is they'll go through a training, they'll be like, how did you learn all of this? And my best advice to a new agent is, you're not expected to know everything, but you are expected that if you don't know, to find someone who does. And that is how I learned. If I didn't know, I found someone who did. And I was willing and open to learn from them. And that is my best piece of advice for a new agent. Don't try to feel like you have to know it all, but make sure you're set up with a brokerage that has support, and don't be afraid. The worst thing you can do is try to guess, and now you're in a situation, right?
Right.
Don't be afraid to find someone who knows.
Because you were going in the office, and there's, we pre-show, we talked about, some of the top names in the area that you mix. You were meeting the top people in the area, and that had, whether it was a year or 10 years previous experience on you, you now have built a relationship, so they're going to answer your call. And when you call them with a situation, they immediately want to pour into you, whatever they can do to help you through it.
And that's the other side of this is a relationship business. It's not just the relationship with your customers. It's the relationship with your preferred vendors that are your lender that's going to pick up the phone on a Saturday night when things are going sideways and your customers are freaking out on you, and you just need someone that knows what you don't know to help you talk them off the ledge, right? Yep. And having those other industry professionals that you look up to or that respect you as well. I mean, when we were in situations where we have 15 offers on a house, it was kind of nice to look at that spreadsheet and go, well, I know 3 of those agents and they're solid, you know?
Right.
Or when you're on the other side and you're offer 13 out of 15 and you're like, that agent knows me and respects me, right? It makes a big difference. It's truly relationship, not just with your customers.
Well, I mean, to the stories that I've heard, in the last 18 months on those multiple offers, there's a lot of buyer's agents who just will send the email over with the offer and they're not following up and so forth. I don't know whether it's because they don't have a relationship with the listing agent, so they don't feel, they're shy, which you got to overcome that because you got to break the ice and do it. Yeah. That's your job. But obviously, if you're that person that's shy about calling someone you don't know yet, well, maybe you got to show up to the office, show up to some of the socials, show up to some of the events. As I know, you and Cole work together a lot. Cole, being involved in the community and of everybody, whether you're at NEFA, NEFBA, or just the community in general, so people know who you are.
It's important.
It could even be on social media, because I think from what I understand, and I totally agree, it's happening because I see it myself. If you're on social media, as an agent should be posting, you are actually building a relationship you don't even realize you are.
Sure.
People get to know you because your mind does not differentiate between the video and someone sitting right in front of you.
Yep.
And you are actually building a relationship. And when you run into that person, you're like, hey, how you doing? You act like you hang out every weekend.
Yeah.
Because you're watching each other's social media.
I actually got a handwritten card sent to my office about 9 months ago from a customer of mine. And if this is on Facebook, hopefully she'll see it. But I sold her a house in the Cascades, I don't know, 6 years ago, maybe longer. Mm-hmm. It was one of my first sales. It was a walk-in off floor, cash sale, 55 plus. I was so excited. It was a day, my kids were at daycare, so I was there. And, I've kept in touch with them over the years with email updates and inviting them to my customer appreciation party and mailers and those kind of things. And I've never really heard a lot back from them. And she sent me a handwritten note just saying that she can't get over how beautiful my babies are growing up and that she follows me on Facebook and enjoys seeing pictures of my children. And I was like, that's someone that I really haven't personally heard from. Right. She took the time to send a note to my office, and it meant so much to me because, like you said, you don't know who's watching.
Exactly.
She feels like we still have that strong relationship, but of course I do too now, but I didn't know that,
Well, it just goes, straggling. I'm going to have the breakfast with content on Friday thing. And it's talking, you don't know who's watching, but you have to stay, one of the key terms, we talked about education a second ago, how, being around people educating as well as, taking the formal classes, but consistency in what you're doing. Right. Consistency of, you're putting your kids on there, you're putting some business on there. I mean, everyone has their, how many times you're supposed to do it. I don't know how they figure that out, right. But some algorithm, some computer's probably telling them what's getting the likes. I don't know how they even count, not the likes, but I guess really they want interaction. You want to say something pretty, but the important thing is you're staying top of mind of that person. And I guarantee you, if we did a blind Realtor taste test with them and asked them who the agent, if you're not one, you're number two because you're staying top of mind.
Right.
And the only reason probably someone might beat you out is someone they know personally is now in the business, or their neighbor is in front of their face every day,
Right.
a little closer than you are. But you are staying top of mind of that family, and that's the power of the social media.
It is.
Yeah.
It's an incredibly powerful tool.
Yep. What are you doing? Your broker support. So you're in leadership now, or you have been. With Exit Real Estate now and United Real Estate Gallery. What do you do besides listen to my podcast? Because you do say you do that to get some tidbits there. What are you? Do you follow anyone? You a book reader? Do you listen? Is there other podcasts? Buffini? Who do you?
Yeah, so a little of all of it. I mean, I love to read. I wish I have had time to read recreationally. But I am a big fan of, I learned the hard way after some burnout a few years ago that I have to take one day a week to either work from home and like do my laundry and cook and like get my mental state in order, or I'll go out to my property and go in my hammock, and I do bring a business book. But I try to give myself like one day a week because there's a lot of times I am working on the weekends.
Right.
So to have that one day to just catch up personally and get my house in order and do something for my business that is going to help develop me professionally. So I actually have a stack of books in the back of my car right now. I look like a mobile library because I'll just see other people's recommendations and I'll just go on Amazon and order it. And then I'll get it out the mailbox and put it in the back of my car. So wherever I'm at, and sometimes I'm waiting for gymnastics to finish, and I can sit in a chair and get a few chapters in. I started with Buffini when I started in real estate in Florida, and
Right.
so I love his platform. I really structured my business initially after kind of his whole platform. I started following a lot of investment books. I built a spec house 2 years ago with a partner, and that was my first major investment that I've done in real estate personally. And so I've really enjoyed that. I want to be able to do some more of that. That is on my personal goal list. And it was really a fun experience. But I've been doing a lot of investment books lately too, because I'm trying to give myself more education on that.
Well, the market has shifted a little bit too. That rents are in high demand.
Yes.
There's not enough rental property, so if you're able to get your hands on a property that you can rent out, and you're also working with buyers who, or maybe even buyers and sellers, anyone involved in real estate, you've got to learn a little bit of that gaming because you don't want to fear it. If someone
Right.
says, I want to buy an investment property, you should be great. These areas that would, are going to get the rents, or if they're Airbnb, if that's what they want to do. What you need to be knowledgeable of that, because in this area, we have, as much as we have people from different areas of the country, there's, you name the state, we can go up the street, and I guarantee we can get most of the 50 states. Somebody's from one of those other states,
Yeah.
and they have different ideas and different things they want to do. What real estate they want to buy, big house, condo, investment properties, multiple family homes. So you don't have to be an expert, but listening to some of these podcasts and so forth, the Bigger Pockets podcast
Yeah.
is one. I mean, to name many others.
I've listened to that one.
Yeah, and have some sort of working knowledge of what that buyer is looking for. I think we deal a good percentage of those, 50, if not more than 50%, a majority of them, the buyers who want to get investment don't already have no experience in investment properties.
Exactly, and that's what I was going to say. If you're in real estate, you need some kind of basic knowledge of investment. Also, you should be investing yourself personally because you know this business more than any other consumer. Again, going back to that stat that most investors have no experience. They like the idea of it. They don't know where to go. You need to practice what you preach,
Right.
And that's an opportunity to set yourself up to work smarter and not harder. But rents are so high here. There's such an opportunity for people to invest. And again, when they come to you, what you have to know is you don't have to know it all. Right. You just have to know who to go to if you need a little more information. And sometimes you also have to realize that an investor's goals are going to be different than what maybe your goals would be. So like I had a gentleman come to me a few years ago. He lived in our neighborhood. He's like, we want to buy an investment property. Okay, well, here's what it looks like right now. Like we knew he wanted a townhome. He didn't want a condo, but he wanted something low maintenance. And he's like, I just want to make this much a month off of it. And I was like, are you sure? You know, like that's, and he's like, yeah, I want something where I can hold long term. And so he did, and he's happy. We met his goal.
Right.
He also purchased it several years ago. And if he wants to sell it now, forget how much a month he made off of it the last 3 years. It's doubled in value from when he purchased it.
100%.
Because it's in this area and it's in high demand.
And that note's been paid down by the renter.
Correct. And so my original investment that I made, I did not know I was investing. It was 2008 in New Orleans. I closed on my first house the day I graduated college. I had moved back in with my parents for 6 months to save for a down payment.
Right.
Because you have to understand, it was post-Katrina New Orleans. There was still a shortage of homes. So while the rest of the market was kind of down, we were still had an inventory shortage. And so my dad's like, you are spending so much money in rent on this little apartment. Just come home for 6 months. You know, I had been gone since I graduated high school. So I was like,
right.
I don't know if I can do that. I'm so independent. And he's like, I'm telling you, just suck it up for 6 months, come home, and you'll have a down payment in 6 months. Buy a house. It'll be cheaper than renting. So I did. And I closed on it. In fact, at my post-graduation party, we had all the men in the family loading my stuff out of my parents' house and moving it to my new house because I was ready to go.
Right.
But I bought that house for $125,000. It was a brand new construction spec house. Okay, my interest rate I think was like 5.75 or 6% at the time. Mm-hmm. Well, then the market crashed all over, and I moved to Florida in 2011, and I could not sell it for what I owed on it.
Amazing.
So I rented it because I wasn't willing to take a credit hit or a loss. Some people didn't have that option, but I was like, you know what? We're going to move to Florida and we're just going to rent for a while.
And there's a housing shortage, so someone was there to rent
Somebody was there to rent it. And so they signed like a 3-year lease. And then I tried to kick them out because they kind of destroyed the house a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then they wanted another 3-year lease. So I put another lease on it and just made a little stronger criteria and what they were responsible for replacing. Mm-hmm. And so long story short, 7 years later, I sold it for what I paid for it in 2008. However, I walked away with cash because someone else had paid that mortgage down for me for those 7 years.
Right.
And so I didn't buy it thinking I'd be an investor. And that's what I love about real estate is there's always an option. You know, you can buy and hold, you can flip, you can buy land and build new. There's so many options. It's not just put into one little basket.
Well, there's no. I mean, people have they want to think. Our natural thing is think, whoa, what if? Well, in 2006, you're paying at that time high dollar for every home, right? I mean, mm-hmm. people were getting exuberant amount of prices. You have the collapse in 7 and 8, and you go in there. Now you got foreclosures and everything else going on in the marketplace. If you had bought that home in 2006 and went and rented that out, because people still need a place to live. There may be a housing or something. You know, in this case, it was a financial, bad loans causing the situation, but that house you bought in 2006. I guarantee you, I know what I bought our house for in 2009, and I know I can get well more than twice of what we paid for it.
Right.
Now, I mean, even, you think of, well, the value, if you bought the house for $125 and the value is $50,000 a year later, but you're still collecting rent, who cares what the value of it is?
Right.
Unless you need to cash out, just because the value, you wait around long enough, it's going to come back. Mm-hmm. And, with rent, demand, there's going to be people who are going to, like we have here now, their renters are now looking to buy because the rent has gone up so high.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I'm doing a lot of applications right now of people who are been renting. They don't necessarily have the greatest credit. They're a little touch and go on some stuff, and I'm working with them. And hey, we need to pay this down, and we need to get this collection removed. Get your credit up to a minimum score, and we can get you out looking at a home. We're dealing a lot of apps right now,
And so what you're doing is you're educating and turning someone that's curious into a customer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing in real estate in general. You need to not only have the education, but put out there your knowledge, because you never know you don't know what they don't know. That's what I tell my agents all the time. Like, you can't assume that you know what your customer knows.
Right.
So even if it's just a friend or family member, you have a conversation about something relevant in the marketplace that's going on, like roofs getting, insurance companies dropping people over roofs, interest rates going up, buy down rate, 2-1 buy down programs, which are huge right now. If you go out into your network, your sphere, your community, and you're educating people on the things that are relevant, you don't know who that might turn into a customer, because they're like, oh, you know what? I read an article about that. Or, oh, Amanda knew that. Oh, yeah, she was talking about that the other day.
But it's that point of, you don't have to be the expert, but just know enough to have a conversation about it.
Yes.
Understanding, if you listen to Bigger Pockets, they sell you on, it's not sell you, they offer it to you, as well as other podcasts on these that are talking about investment properties, on how to evaluate a property and whether or not it's a good property to buy and rent out. They have spreadsheets that you can just fill in.
I have
fill
a
in the
spreadsheet.
numbers.
I don't even know where I got it from. Like 4 or 5 years ago, that someone shared in some group I was in this spreadsheet on how to evaluate if it's a good buy or not. And I still have it in my Google Drive, and I still refer to it for my customers and myself personally. And there are so many free resources out there.
And then so to circle back to what we were just talking about, having that investment buyer, which there's more now. Some of them have no experience, but you have a little bit of knowledge. You can get a hold of one of these spreadsheets very easily. You're evaluating, what the going rent is. You're a real estate agent. You can dig in and find out what's the good areas. And now you sound like an expert. And now you are a unicorn in our marketplace, because let me tell you, agents, most of you, I get the calls. You hear investment buyer, you're like going the other way because you think it's going to lead you in some place you didn't know. Listen to a podcast. There are plenty of investment podcasts. These guys will tell you what to do, so you sound halfway intelligent to lead your client to the right property that's either going to spin off cash every month or at least break even, and the value of the home's going to slowly appreciate. And is their goal?
Here's the other thing about investors. They don't care what the interest rate is. They're looking at what are they making every year versus what's going out. Are they making a profit? Mm-hmm. Because they know that homes historically are going to continue to appreciate at a slower rate, okay? So they don't care if the interest rate is 3 or 8, as long as they're meeting the numbers that are important to them.
Right.
Or they have cash, interest rate doesn't matter at all. So investors need to be a huge source for agents right now. It's kind of an untapped source.
That is actually a very brilliant statement. And to someone listening to what she just said, to reword it, if you didn't, they're not worried about the interest rate. If you can show them that, that's going to be your payment. The interest rate drives what your payment's going to be every month, your cost of that business, because it's a business, it's an investment property. Yes. But if I'm getting this much rent, if you're sitting there looking at the interest rate and not looking at what the rent you can get, and hey, I'm still going to make $300 or $400 a month or whatever it is on that property, you're not worried about the interest rate. You're just worried about getting the property, because I'm going to get that rent, and I know the payment's going to be here, and I'm going to have a profit or whatever the appreciation value. I know a lot of people in the last half a dozen years. We have so many new construction neighborhoods going up.
Yes. Get
in there early, because that's when you're going to get that price. By the time they finish the project, in most cases, those homes are going for $100,000 more than they were 5 or 6 years ago when they started the community.
Yeah.
And so immediately I know a lot of people that are savvy real estate agents. They're putting their families into those situations where they're going in, buying that pre-construction price, and as soon as the house is finished, they got a renter already ready to go.
Oh, ready to go.
Ready to go. And then just, so it all turns into the question is time, right? How long do you want an investment? It's going to turn around, you can sell it in a year for a profit, or you're like, hey, I just want it to spin off money until I retire 10, 15 years from now. Everyone has a different goal. All right. Education. We talked about showing up, right? We talked about showing up at the office is an important thing. What are, obviously where you're the broker support, you have a hotline to, Sonny and Ray and the leadership there. But what are some other things you do to surround yourself with top people in the business?
So I was involved in NEFBA SMC for 2 years on the Sales and Marketing Council on Model Meetup, and that was a lot of fun. I've done a lot of new construction in the past. I typically average close to 40% of my business a year is new construction.
Wait, your office is right in the middle of new construction.
It's right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And so I have averaged, again, about 40% of my business is new build. So I got involved with SMC because of that, and that helped me grow my relationships with the site agents, with the lenders that are partnered with these builders, with independent contractors, and just getting to know the people within the NEFBA family. And they provide great education as well. So that's something that really, I think, helped elevate my business.
How important is, with the loan officers, I think is, I don't know, and people will disagree with me. I personally, from NEFBA, do not see, unless you are the lender of the builder, or if your builder doesn't have a lender, you're one of their 2 or 3 whatever preferred people. Otherwise the builders really don't want to talk to a loan officer from if they're not we're not related in any way.
I agree with that.
But from a real estate agent standpoint, to know who is to know the vice president or the whatever it is, that person, because new construction, they're throwing these homes up. These are not custom built homes.
No.
They're not, people are not spending the extra money for these are track homes that are going up at a rapid pace, and problems come up. And to have that inner circle, anyone listening to you, go get involved with NEFBA if you're a real estate agent, and get in there and shake hands with some of the builders. Of course, right now they love on you. Right now they just want to they want to take you out to drinks and everything right now.
Sure.
But having those relationships.
It's so funny because when I started in this business in Florida, that's how it was. Like, I think the first person I met was a site agent that walked into the office, and I was on floor duty, and they're like, "Oh, here's a bottle of champagne, and like, please bring me all your buyers." And I'm like, "I don't even know anything about this yet." And like, they would wine and dine you. And then I have my agents that started in the last 2 years when builders are like, "We're not paying any realtor fees, and we're not paying your closing costs, and you're going to bid highest and best on a lot, and then we'll tell you if you can put the house you want on it," And they're like, "Builders did what?" I'm like, "No, they used to pay bonuses. They would bring you champagne." They didn't believe it. And so, like, it's funny how the tables have turned so quickly.
Yep.
And believe me, I have some of my favorite site agents that I've worked with for years that I just love dearly. But it's important in, the latest NFR stat that came out inventory-wise, I think it was August 22 was the last one I looked at. Inventory is up in Northeast Florida 143%. So that's a big number, right? However, we're still only at like 2.3 months of inventory. So keep in mind, a balanced market is 5 to 6 months. So in our area specifically, new construction is a huge part of our inventory. Yep. So you need to know about it, and you need to be networked with these site agents and building those relationships just like you would with other agents that you might work a deal with, because it is a huge part of your potential sales.
100%. Having worked with a builder very closely for most of the last 3 years, I could not understand the common sense of treating the agents the way they were. They weren't in a rush to actually, not that they didn't want to, it's they didn't have to.
Some of it was greed.
Yeah, well,
because demand was huge. Rates were low. Demand was huge.
Demand was huge, but like I would have an agent. They're looking for a certain value of home, and they were thinking more, possibly an existing home. But I look over my builder. I know the fees and so forth. I'm like, you know what? And I would reach out over to the builder side of the building and say, hey, what spec homes do you have? Because they're looking to buy in St. Johns County, because loans fall out.
Right.
And so forth. At that time was the demand. And usually if a spec home was available, it's because a loan probably fell out. So, but I'd have to like pull it out of them. Mm-hmm. And then they did go, here is the turn of the year, to just building spec homes, because they could not predict the time for supplies and so forth.
Yep.
So to reach out now and say, here's all our spec homes that are coming online. Now they're having to do that. They weren't. It's like they didn't think of doing that before. Why would I? Don't know. I just I my psychology major wannabe in me just blows my mind with that.
It was very helpful when we were in that situation not so long ago to be able to pick up a phone and have the cell phone number of a site agent that I've done 20 plus deals with and say, what do you have that's not being marketed? Do you have anything coming out of the ground?
Right.
Tell me anything you can, right?
Or you know,
is
one that
important.
might be coming back online because the loan fell out.
Exactly.
We have a lot of that right now because let me tell you,
Because of interest rates.
yeah, they were in January, they built the home. Now the home's finished and the interest rates have doubled and they're like, we can't afford this home.
We're seeing people walk away from deposits on builder contracts because the interest rate's gone up so much and they didn't have too big of a deposit, and they can turn around and buy a spec with a different builder in the same community that's offering a 2-1 rate buy down. That's the same square footage, but is $30,000 cheaper than they were under contract
because
four months ago.
Because they're a new customer.
Because they're a new customer to that builder.
Yeah, they're
so
new
we're
customer.
seeing some of that too,
Yeah.
because they're recouping the cost in the lower interest rate, and the price of the house is $40,000 cheaper than 6 months ago.
The important thing is experienced, connected real estate agent.
Yes.
And Amanda, is that a new agent coming on? You can duplicate what you've done.
Absolutely.
Get out there, get involved, show up, circle yourself with important people. Go to the NEFPA events, introduce yourself to those vice president, ask them for their business card, get their cell phone number, and have it programmed in your phone.
Yeah, and go to conferences and conventions. You know, I love the Florida Realtors Convention.
Mm-hmm.
I have a team out of Orlando I met 3 years ago, and we meet up every year at convention now and have lunch or dinner. But they're my referral partner down there. You know, it's another income stream of business where I just happen to meet them. We vibed in a session, and 3 years running, we still meet up. We still send business back and forth. And, you know, if you do feel like you're getting stagnant in your local market, look for conventions and conferences outside of your market, because you'll get re-inspired and you'll learn something that maybe isn't in your marketplace yet, but that someone else kind of took the lead, and you can come back and be that pioneer that starts something new in your marketplace.
You know, great point. And, you know, the fact that someone would refer you, you know, they're over in Tampa. Oh, yeah, I met Amanda. So my sister or neighbor needs to move over to Jacksonville, job transfer. I know an agent over there. They want to be that influence. And then the fact that you guys actually get along and enjoy having drinks or dinner or lunch or whatever when you're at the thing, that's even better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. I don't think we've talked about this word here, consistency. What are some things that that you've been doing? If you've got a new agent you're mentoring, you're trying to bring in, what are some things that you've been consistently doing or that you feel moves the needle in your business, no matter how little it is? I don't know, something that you have to do. I know you talked about taking your day to get your brain recharged.
Yeah.
That's working on you personally. You're consistently on that, but the actual business of moving that needle.
So with the actual business, I'm very big on time blocking and calendars, because I have a busy life. I have 2 small children, and we're running all over the place, and I have a business that I'm running. And so I am big on time blocking, and one of the things I've taught anyone that's ever worked on my team is you never delete a calendar item. You can move it, because life's going to happen. School's going to call, your kid's puking, you got to go.
Yep.
Or, you know, you woke up sick, or this other webinar popped up and they're only doing it now and you can do this other task later. So one of the things is I don't allow deleting off the calendar. We can reschedule it for another time, especially, number one, if it is an income producing item. And those are your things. You need to focus on your income producing tasks at your most efficient part of the day. I'm a 5, 6 a.m. riser. I am sleeping by 8:30. If you call me after 8:30, you're not going to get me. But I am most efficient in those early morning hours. I can go to my office after Carline and I can knock out 8 hours of work in those 4 hours that I have, because that's my most efficient time. So I try to schedule all of my income producing activities during that time frame. Also, because if I am going to be out showing property or open houses, those are usually evenings or weekends anyway. So my priority needs to be focusing on bringing business in. You have to prioritize that, and you have to be consistent. And I can tell you 100%, again, I went through burnout a few years ago. The minute you stop being consistent, your business feels it immediately, and it takes a while to get it back. So that consistency, I cannot stress enough how important it is for your business.
What is your go-to prospecting? What prospecting activity is your love? Is you like, yeah, I love doing this part, and you try to 10x.
Yep. So I have a really big referral sphere-based network for my business. So the first Monday of every month, I send out a CMA and net sheet to anyone that closed that month ever with me. And I send a little handwritten note.
Anniversary month.
Yep. Like, hey, can you believe it's been 3 years since you purchased 123 Main Street? Here's an updated value in case you need it for any kind of HELOC. Or if you're thinking about selling, here's an updated value. Can you believe you have $212,000 in equity in 3 years? Like, I will do the calculation of what they paid for it and write it in that note and send it to them.
So you personalize each of these?
I do. I personalize the handwritten note, and I send that out on the first Monday of every month for anyone that closed in that month ever with me before, no matter how many years ago it was. And then I like working in investments. So recently, guys, MMT tax records and MLS, it's part of your dues. You have access to it. It's a great tool for trying to solicit listings. So I love to go back and look at what properties are not owner occupied that were purchased between like 2012 and like 2019. Before the market went real crazy, because those guys have a significant amount of equity.
And they might be ready to cash in.
And I look for out-of-town owners because, again, if they're an investor that they're sitting and holding and rents keep going up, it may be with a property manager. They may not have even thought about this house in the last 6 years. But if I send them a handwritten note with what their home's valued, like, hey, you may not realize this, but home values are at an all-time high in Northeast Florida. If your tenant decides not to renew their lease, here's what the current value is. You have about this much equity from the time you purchase it to now. And so, again, if you put that in front of their face, they're going to look at it.
Yep.
If they decide to list it, a lot of times they don't call their property manager because they're like, they only do property management. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Right. But they know that you list and you provided them with some important information. You
were the first one. And I mean, and you could even twist that into, hey, you have so much equity on this right here that you could actually sell that, take that equity and buy 2 investment properties over here.
And buy 2 more.
Yeah.
Right? And so 1031 exchanges are a great opportunity too.
I think people you
multiple
bring up,
sales from the same customer.
You bring up the 1031s. 1031s are nothing difficult, guys. No. It's something they actually have a class on it.
They do. I took it like 2 weeks ago.
As a lender, they show us their 1031 account. It's like they get a statement how much money is in it, and the buyer knows when they need to spend that money by. They know what to do. So there's nothing really special you have to do just because they're using a 1031 to buy a house. The great thing is for you as a loan officer or real estate agent is they got to do it in a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
So they're pressed to go do something.
If you have investors sitting on a lot of equity right now and they're talking about investing again, you need to have that 1031 exchange conversation with them because more often than not, they can sell that one property and 1031 exchange it into 2. Guess what that means for you as a real estate agent? It's 3 transactions. Yeah. You're listing and it's 2 sales that you have to identify within less than 3 months. And the 1031 exchange mediators do pretty much all the work for you. Of course, you still need a basic education on it. You need to understand the process. But, again, thinking about working smarter, not harder, who wouldn't love one customer within 3 months to give them 3 transactions?
Well, turn around. I mean, we're kind of beating a dead horse, but if you have that spreadsheet, we're able to, and you suggest to them, hey, if you sell that house and you're going to get $250,000 in equity, I can go buy these 2 other townhomes over here, which look at these prices and look at the rents they're getting. I mean, that's a slam dunk a lot of times, unless someone's had issues in their life and need to sell and just get the cash and then deal with it ever. But I mean, suggestive selling, and I'm finding that Luke Newcomer. He was bringing that up on the podcast I had with him a couple weeks ago, where he's literally just knocking on doors and just saying, "Hey, you got a beautiful home here, and do you mind to take a look at it?" And then go and explain to him what it's valued at. Some of these people are like, "Oh, you know what? Yeah, that might be the push to go do what they really wanted to do, which was go move somewhere else."
Right.
But because you're now suggestive selling because they were procrastinating a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah. That's a lot of great nuggets right there. A lot of great nuggets right there. All right. In your 12 years, what has been your biggest mistake from that when you're training a new realtor, that you would say, yeah, I've done that. Did not work for me. I wouldn't recommend it for you, or don't do it at all.
I would say, I don't know so much if it's the biggest mistake. Bigger is not always better. There are ways to scale your business. You have giant teams. Like Christina Welch is one of my favorite people in the whole world. I look up to her. Like, I met her through SMC. I feel very privileged to know her. I love to watch her business, and she is incredibly successful. I thought I wanted that type of business until I realized personally I didn't. And I actually had to take steps back to rescale my business, and I'm actually happier now with where my business is now than when I was trying to be this big giant thing in the marketplace, right? So my biggest thing is, don't think you have to be everything else. What works for you? Look at your bottom line, right? As far as mistakes, like transaction-wise, caution when you work with friends and family. Okay. Everyone
Great
thinks
tip.
like that's, oh, my friends and family are going to support me, and that's going to be my first few transactions. Like, most consumers are highly emotional in a real estate transaction. Your friends and family are very emotional. And then they also look at what you're making, and they're like, they just get weird about it. I don't know how to explain it. It's some phenomenon, but just caution when you work with friends and family. Stay very professional. Try to keep the emotion out of it, because they will bring enough of it for you.
Great tip there.
Those would be.
Oh, no,
I have a few friends and family I regret doing transactions with.
I love your analogy about Christina. Her personality, how she operates her business. She's gone, and I've talked about it on episodes. I've seen her growth because I've known her since 2009. Everything in that business that she has today, and number one in Jacksonville Business Journal, wasn't, they were always successful because you had great people, but people came in the door and out the door. Now she's learned how to keep that team intact, and that she's growing now at exponential things compared to where she was, 10 years ago. Yeah. She's grown into that, but she has that personality. Not everyone has that personality and that focus. And then there's no doubt, and she will tell you, she has surrounded herself by top people.
Yes.
And her core circle they're all bought into what she's doing. So it makes life easier versus, your vice president changing all the time. Is a little shit, and it's all on you, and the weight's on you, and then like, she has surrounded herself, and everyone's bought in to what she's doing, and her team has grown. But not, again, like I said, not for everybody. That's just great. Right. You have to check to see how is it that you want to see your life in 5 and 10 years. What do you want to see yourself, doing? People ask me that all the time. I'd love to be going around and doing podcasts at every Loan Depot location, if Loan Depot still or whatever, whoever I'm working for, and help bring in top agents and introduce them to the company and let them, go from there and start building relationships, help other people build relationships by the podcast, because I love doing the podcast. I get high on. That's my high. So you got to find out what is your high and go after it and 10x it. And hopefully you can turn it into money.
Exactly. Don't forget about that part.
All right. Close with our, before I do my 2-minute warning questions. You're the broker support. So you're representing United, but you also have your own team within this, right?
I do.
Yeah. So why, if there's an agent out there right now who's looking, or someone new might be looking in the business, give them a little sales pitch of, United, and then Hauser Homes.
Yeah. So United, And again, I'm a creature of habit. So what I love about United is how consistent they are. Okay. These broker owners started this business 15 years ago. They are the exact same leadership team that's always been there. And they started this brokerage when the market started crashing right after. So you had established brokerages that were shutting their doors when we had the big crash.
Right.
These guys figured out a way to not only keep their brand new doors open, but to expand in this marketplace. You know, we have 8 offices and around Northeast Florida, and that's huge that not only did they not shut their doors as a brand new business, but they expanded. And so it's one of those things they're able to adapt and leverage their opportunities. And that was a big part of the brand change for us recently is they're leveraging the opportunity that the market is starting to shift. And if they're going to keep talent, they have to make changes and provide things that other people aren't, right? Not only to keep talent, but to attract it. And I wish that they would have been at the United place that they're at now when I first started even part-time, because as a brand new agent, I would have walked into everything I needed without having to spend money on it or time trying to research it or sampling this and then being like, that doesn't work out, let me try this. That stops a lot of your progress. I think it would have been such a benefit.
A little bit of a plug and play.
Yeah.
If you're an inexperienced agent, you can plug into a system, a process.
Yes, and again, creature of habit. I have used the same CRM for years that I pay for out of my own pocket, okay? I'm giving it up November 1st because United now provides one that meets my standards, okay? Same with my website. I've had my own website. United now provides one that has the features that I want.
Right.
November 1st, just between my CRM and my website, I will be saving over $700 a month in business expenses. That's huge.
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 Yeah. I mean,
for me and my team.
It's a good car payment.
Yeah.
Right there. But I want you to close on you though. Why in your office there on 210? Why, if you're especially northwest St. Johns County, you kind of sometimes want your office to be close to home, maybe. But why should they come work directly under you or directly with you?
Yeah, at the end of the day, we are over communicators on our team. So we track every email, every text message, phone calls. You're never going to have to reach out to us and wonder what's going on. We send updates every week to our buyers and our sellers. It has summaries of showings and feedback. And
so you have a
stats.
support team there. You have some transaction coordinators.
I have a licensed assistant that works 4 days a week with me in the office. And if I work from home, some days she will actually come to my house instead of the office because I work very well with her right there. We accomplish more, we get more done. So I have her 4 days a week.
Right. So they're supporting your team as well.
Absolutely.
She's helping you fill in the gaps, especially for a new agent.
She takes a lot of the non-income producing tasks off my plate. So not only building my business, but as far as my customers, the reason I have such a referral sphere-based business is my customers are still working with me. They're not going to get to the point of a contract and now they're only going to hear from the transaction coordinator. They're still working with me. She may type the email, but I'm going to proof it and send it. And that's just, again, scaling my business. I've been able to increase my volume and increase the amount of business I have coming in because I have such a personalized system in place with my customers.
Which is a huge tip because all the top agents, every single one of you, the loan officer said the same thing, is taking that step to have that assistant that's going to take those non-income producing tasks off of your plate so you can do what makes you money. And when you make that leap. So to be with Amanda and understanding she's gone through that already, when it's time to do that and what tasks they should be doing is so important because I think that's out there. Everyone has an opinion on it. No one's acting on it. You want to plug in to a brokerage that has processes in place. And trust me, that is one of the biggest ones. And when it's time to let someone else do those other tasks. You are, trust me, you are not the best at it. You may think you are.
Right. You have to know what you're good at and know what you're not.
Right. If that other person's not better than you, then you probably need to hire someone else. Because you want them to be focused on that. All right, 2-minute warning question. We'll wind down here. What is your favorite thing, the kids, your family, your favorite, and talking about lifestyle in Northeast Florida, what is your favorite thing to do in Northeast Florida?
Oh, in Northeast Florida. So, well, like I said,
Disney World's out.
No. We did that last week. It's a lot. We love to be outside, and so we actually purchased some acreage in South Green Cove Springs almost 2 years ago, and we've been in the process of building. And we love to just be outside. I mean, it doesn't matter if we're on the dock fishing, if we're just riding the golf cart around between Dee Dee and Papa's house and our house, or sometimes we'll go out at sunset and look for rabbits and deer and, riding the tractor. I mean, there's always something to do. They planted a fairy garden last weekend on the property. I love having that time outside with them. We were in a neighborhood for since they're born. And so it's been really nice because we are so busy with work and school and activities that at the end of the day, my favorite thing in Northeast Florida is when I can go home away from all the noise and truly have that time. No iPads, no cable TV, and have that time together as a family because it does go so fast.
Right, 100%. And you're over there in a gold mine, South Green Cove Springs. Green Cove Springs has had its heyday several times.
Yeah, that outer
before
loop
the railroad,
is coming, y'all.
after World War II, and it's coming again.
Yeah.
When that new expressway is connected across there, and you guys are in a great spot as far as, I don't know if it's going to be quiet. It might be quiet for another 5 or 10 years.
I know that's my fear.
Yeah.
It's gonna build
by
up
the time
fast.
the kids are gone, you might be ready to go somewhere else. But you're in an area where there's no doubt equity growth. So get a hold of Amanda if you want to learn about South Green Cove Springs and what she's got going over there. Because especially if you're an investor right now, great place to invest.
In North Putnam County, no impact fees.
Yeah.
You pick up some land cheap and put a spec house, rent it, turn it around and sell it.
Put a couple manufactured homes on it.
Yep. You can do that too.
Because the rent, there's no place to rent. So put a couple single or double wides on there and rent them out.
Yep.
You got an income producing property. All right. Last question asked on almost every one of my shows. It's a couple shows I forgot. Is it more important?
Prepared.
Yeah. Is it more important who you know or what you know and why?
Oh, that's a tough one. I don't know if I have a good answer for that because part of me is like who you know is important but you can always meet new people too if you're open to it, right? And then what you know, of course, is important. However, you can always learn more too. So that I really don't know if I have a good answer for that.
I mean, evaluating
I hate that I don't have a good answer, but I really don't.
I think you knowing a little bit about your career. I mean, you ran into some Keep It Like Sonny and Ray. I mean, obviously you worked with Cole for a little bit. I mean, those people kind of showed you what you need to know, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
Let's say you're incompetent, you still got to go learn,
Right.
but knowing the people that are going to hopefully avoid the big mistakes, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're all going to make mistakes. You're not making mistakes, you're not moving forward, but hopefully they're going to show you, how to avoid their pitfalls and narrow your big mistakes down, right?
Yeah, I think
that type of thing.
I'm very appreciative of who I know because, like you said, each of those people have helped grow my career or restructure my career and give me opportunities. And again, like I'm very grateful for the people in the industry, like when Cole and I work together, like Christina Welch, that take the time with you. Either one of them would have no problem sitting down with any agent, and neither would I. They just have a lot more experience than I do. Yeah. But none of us would say no to sit down with an agent and give them some advice or talk them through anything, no matter the stage of their career. And that's where who you know does become extremely important.
Yep. Well, Amanda, I appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you. This is fun.
Yes. We need to get Sonny on. That's our next goal.
Yeah, I have access to his calendar.
Yeah, we're gonna do that. We're gonna get. He sort of said yes already, but we need to narrow that down and hopefully get him on. We'll see. Pretty much in November. I'm already booked out here for the rest of us. But thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.